just like that. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ed Laine. I am here in Seattle, if you can see my background. I've been doing this a really long time, and I'm passionate about knowing what to say in every circumstance to get the desired outcome, not only for me, but for my clients. And today we're going to talk about multiple offers because my personal opinion is with the scarcity of inventory that we have, we're at about 2.5 months of inventory here in Seattle. Um, Whenever the Iranian war ends, I think buyers are going to come flooding back to the market. And we've actually already started to see multiple offer situations in the market in certain pockets. So I thought it'd be wise to kind of prepare you guys. There's some very specific language that I use that works really, really well. Um, and last week we covered offer review dates. So this is sort of a natural progression for, well, what if that works, right? So let me dive in. This, and launch that, and take care of this. So, like I said, I'm Ed Lane. I've been in the biz 39 years, over 3,000 sales. I've done this a lot. That's why I get to opine on such matters. But we're going to talk today specifically about multiple offer situations. And the key to remember is it gets unlocked the minute you have a second offer. So it doesn't matter if you have two offers or 99 offers, the dialogue's going to be the same, right? And why does it matter? Because multiple offers create emotion and pressure for your client. So you want to have a system because then they're going to feel more at ease. You're going to feel more at ease, right? You're going to be calmer. It's exciting, don't get me wrong, but it's a good kind of exciting. And if you don't react emotionally, neither will they. Your clients always are going to feed off of your emotions. So you want to be not stoic, but chill. Like, this is great news. We got a second offer. That unlocks a whole nother opportunity for us. But the offer review date and time haven't passed yet. So let's see if we get more, right? The more, the merrier. And I mentioned last week, the most offers I've ever gotten on one house, I had 99 offers on one house. And that's just a ripe field to drive people up, right? Think about it like this. In fact, let me stop sharing just so I can look at you guys. It's human nature, right? We all, as humans, we could be lukewarm on acquiring something. It doesn't matter if it's a car or a toaster or a house. But the minute we hear someone else wants it, we want it more. And that's human nature. So when you have one offer, you should hustle and work hard and call everybody who's shown that property, seen that property, sent that property to a client, and try and drag in a second offer because it unlocks what we're going to cover today. So take advantage of human nature, right? For your client's benefit, not just exploitive. All right. Requires leadership, right? Sellers need to be led, and you're not just a medium for delivering the offer. Your role is to guide and not simply present paperwork, right? Email does that. And you're going to be able, if you do this right, to maximize the leverage and turn a chaotic moment into a strategic advantage for your client. And by the way, if your commission isn't a flat fee, it's a percentage, it's going up as well, right? So today we're going to learn how you'll get the tools, scripts, and confidence to handle any multiple offer situation like a seasoned professional, right? You're going to be able to present professionally. You're going to be able to reduce the sense of overwhelm that your clients feel, and you're going to remain calm and focused. It's also, we're going to learn about the buyer psychology, right? We touched on it a second ago, which is they want something that other people want, especially if they find out they want it more. and you're going to master this script. So let's dive in, right? So when you're talking to your seller before the offers even get there, you want to let them know that our mission is not to identify the highest price. That's easy, right? What we want is the most likely to successfully close, and that may not be the highest price, and that's okay, right? Think of it like this. Which would you guys rather work on as the listing broker? A guy who's going to 700,000 with 3% down, or a guy who's going to 690 with 40% down? The second one's way more likely to close, right? Way more likely to absorb a low appraisal problem or any problem. So that's what I'm trying to communicate to the seller is my job is to help you analyze the best overall outcome, which is a successful close, right? And by the way, the first offer is the hardest offer to get for that same psychology reason we were just touching on. Buyers, if nobody else is writing on it, they're not sure they want to. Have you guys ever heard that from a buyer? It's super common, right? Terms matter. So it's not just price, the conditions attached to an offer can make or break a deal, right? A post-closing possession date that screws up your summer travel plans as a seller, or your kid's graduation, or they want you to carry paper or whatever, right? Pay attention to everything but price or in addition to price because the rest of it matters. You also want to validate and vet the pre-approval. How many of you call the loan officer every time when you get an offer on one of your listings? You should. I do. I have an advantage. I am a lender and have been one for 40 years. But you can call and ask questions too. You don't need a lender's background to know and listen if that loan officer is talking like this buyer is really stretching to get into this home. You want to know that, right? If they say, "Wow, man, these folks are gold plated. They're pre-approved to another 100 grand above this," that's music to your ears, right? So get in that habit because certainty matters, right? Reducing risk and ensuring the deal closes is way more valuable than chasing a few dollars. I see the chat lighting up. Allison calls lender. I also want to know that the lender is easily accessible. Yes, absolutely. I'm negotiating a short sale right now, and the loss mitigator asked me this morning for an updated pre-approval letter. I called and texted the loan officer and said I need it ASAP because we're supposed to close today. I got it in 5 minutes at 7 a.m. That's a good loan officer, right? So great point, Allison. Timing matters, right? Closing dates, possession timelines, flexibility. Think of this from a buyer's perspective. I have a class called Writing Winning Offers, and one of the things we talk about is be as accommodating as you can for the seller because that isn't really a cost to your client and can make your offer stand out, right? Net proceeds, what the seller actually walks away with. I can't tell you how many times I have to explain to a newer agent that if you ask for 400,000 purchase price and 20 grand in closing costs, you're not offering 400,000. You're offering 380. And that's a licensed real estate broker. Think of the consumer. They never think of it that way, right? So you want to make sure that you're analyzing every term in that offer. And this could be times 99 offers. So I understand it could be a big task. It's not going to be that in most cases, right? But you got to look and you got to pay attention. And we use a spreadsheet. I'm going to show it to you to put them side by side. So what are some big mistakes that agents make? They get emotional, right? They let the personal feelings or excitement cloud their judgment, and their clients feed off of that. If you get animated, guess who's going to get animated right along with you? So don't. I know it's hard, but it's a skill that can be learned, right? So practice it. Also helps if you're a parent because you learn not to overreact to stuff. It's also a mistake to chase price only. It's easy enough with 99 offers. How hard was it for me to figure out which was the highest offer? Easy, right? I just had to look at them all and look at any closing cost credits that they asked for. But that doesn't mean that's the best offer. So don't make that mistake. Not vetting the lenders is a big mistake. Thank you, Allison, for chiming in that you don't make that mistake. Creating legal risk. Oh man. In our MLS, I know you guys are in other states, but we didn't even have an escalator clause 20 years ago. People like me would write our own language. Then they finally created one. And then people started screwing it up. So they created another one and they still screwed it up. Now our escalator clause went from being a short paragraph that I wrote myself to a 3-page document with a template and a formula so that you can do the math and follow the step by step and all that. It's smart of them to provide that, and it's evidence that most brokers aren't smart enough to do this on their own, right? And we can talk at the end if you want about how easy that math is, but they still mess it up. Poor communication, right? Failing to communicate clearly and professionally with the buyer's agents can create confusion and blown opportunities. I've had agents go, shoot, I wish I had known. Well, we're going to talk about how not only am I calling, but I'm updating the agent remarks in the listing. Multiple offers received, highest and best, due by tomorrow at noon or whatever. If you don't read the listing, that's your problem, not mine, right? Losing control of the process. You don't want to be reactive. You want to dictate the steps. Make sense? So when we look at the offers, we're going to look at everything, right? Not only the price, but the net, the financing type and down payment, contingencies, closing date, possession needs, escalation clauses, strength of lender, and the buyer's agent. I looked at an offer yesterday for an agent because in Washington State we have to for the first 2 years. And this was an agent who received an offer on her listing. It was one of the most poorly written offers I've seen. And there's always clues. Like in our forms, there's a computation of time clause that says any time frame of 5 days or shorter excludes weekends, and over 5 days, it includes weekends. For that reason, you should never write something 6 or 7 days long because 5 looks better and it's actually longer than 6. Does that make sense to everybody? And it's equal in time to 7. And obviously, this can depend on, well, what day of the week did you get mutual, etc. Uh, Allison, at the end, I'd love to know how you handle agents calling you asking questions regarding verbiage you put in the MLS when they haven't taken the time to even look. Oh, yeah, we can definitely kick that around. And no, I don't use the F word. So, um,
I didn't think you would.
yeah, no, I know. I was joking. But think about that. If I get an offer that says I want an inspection and it's going to be 6 days in length, I know immediately that agent doesn't know what the hell they're doing, right? That's a great clue. So pay attention to the strength of the lender and the vetting of the borrower or buyer and the agent. Not that it changes how I'm going to talk to them with disrespect or anything like that. I'm just going to speak more carefully because I don't want them to miss anything and I know they're green, right? And green's not the best word. I said this once before, but I'll say it here. I had a guy join the team that was 30 years in the industry, was with Keller Williams, and he joined my team. And I said, "Can I see your first offer?" And he said, "Sure." He sent it to me. It was so poorly written that it was non-binding. Think of how badly you'd have to write an offer where you still got everyone to sign, and yet it was a non-binding agreement because you messed it up so bad. And that's after 30 years? Holy cow. Yes, you definitely. That means nothing. Exactly. So, uh, here's a great way to look at this. So this spreadsheet that's on the screen, consider these two bars connected end to end because it's a long spreadsheet, but I wanted to fit it on the screen. But do you notice I just put the offers side by side? I highlight in every column which is the stronger offer, and they're not like it's not always strongest on one offer and weakest on the other. It's usually this one has a better earnest money, but this one goes to a higher number, and this one closes faster, and this one has a bigger down payment, and blah, 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 right? So I'll highlight as appropriate, and then I send it to my client with the offers because state law says you got to deliver all offers. So that 99 offer one, I sent them all 99. I included a spreadsheet and put all 99 on the spreadsheet, but I put a bar under the top four because there were four distinctive leaders. And those are the ones I highlighted in yellow. Could it have been six or 10 or 20? Sure. Yeah. Whatever ones, were clearly in the running and the rest were clearly out of the running. That's where I drew that line because I wanted my seller to know that if they want, they can look at all 99, but they don't have to. I've already done that, right? What's on the screen now is way more common. You're going to have two, maybe three. Could you have eight or nine? Absolutely. And is that a win? Sure, because you're more likely to get more money, right? Does this, what you're looking at right now, all make sense to everybody? And it's pretty simple, right? You can shoot a picture if you want of the screen so you can see the column headers, or send me an email. I'll send you mine. It's just a simple spreadsheet. It's probably 10 kilobytes. I mean, it's a tiny little file and still until you fill it up with 99 offers. All right. So every multiple offer situation comes down to four possible paths, and knowing how to present them and when to recommend it is the foundation of being an expert, right? So, what are the paths? Well, you can accept one of the offers, you can reject all of the offers, you can counter one or more. You can counter more than one offer. Did you guys know that? Or you can go out for highest and best. Those are the four options. When you only have one offer, you have three options, right? Accept, reject, or counter. When you have two or more offers, you now have a fourth option, which is highest and best. And guess which one your client wants to pursue most often? Highest and best. So that's why we're doing this training today. Here's what it sounds like when I explain it to him. Hey, seller, we have four options. We can accept one. We can reject all of them, which, by the way, I never recommend that. We can counter one or more of them, which is an advanced maneuver, and I'll be happy to explain how we do that. Or we can go back for highest and best. And guess what they always say when I say those words? What is highest and best? Or what does that mean? And I don't usually have to explain how you counter one or more or why we don't reject, but I'll touch on it here so you guys know, just in case one of your sellers says, why can't we reject it all? The reason we don't just outright reject them all is you've got buyers at the table. Wouldn't it be smarter to engage in a negotiation? And I'll say this even if there's only one offer. I'll say if we don't counter an offer, no matter how low it is, that is a blown opportunity to negotiate. And we may as well try, right? Sometimes I'll say, you don't get what you don't ask for, right? And with every counter, I'm delivering a message. And the message could be, you're way too freaking low. Get your ass up, right? I closed a deal last year when the market was soft. 90 days on the market, we still got full price. And I did it by guilting the buyer's agent because they started offensively low. And I said, you overplayed your hand severely. And she's like, what do you mean? I go, you you pissed off my client. You offended my client. Now they don't want your buyer to have the house. So if you're going to have any chance, you're going to need to come way up, like all the way to the asking price. And they did. So it's always wise to counter if even if you think you're too far apart. So I wrote an offer last week for a buyer, and the agent let me know they weren't gonna respond. They were just gonna let it expire because we were too far apart. And I told her, can you coach your client? This is an opportunity for your client to send a message that we're too low. Why don't you encourage your client to counter? And you know what she responded with? Sounds like you already got the message. And I was like, touche. You're right. I did. So we revised our offer and we went mutual. So it all stems from building rapport with your agents that you're working with, right? Well, that's why they call us cooperating agents. All right. So the other comment I wanted to make is on how you counter more than one offer, because a lot of agents don't know how to do that. If you have four offers, let's say, and two of them are front runners, and you want to engage in a negotiation with those two just to see if you can get, let's say, a, a extended possession date. There's one term that none of the offers have, and you're hoping to get that term. Well, we can counter both offer A and B, but we have to add special language because if they both accept, you've now sold it to two people and you can't do that, right? So the special language in a situation like that is simply seller is countering more than one buyer's offer. Your acceptance of this counter does not constitute mutual acceptance. Once the seller confirms that your offer is the winner, that will constitute mutual acceptance. I just add that language on my counter. Easy peasy, right? And that just makes sure they know that if they accept it, that's a step in the right direction, but it's not mutual. All right, let me keep going. Sellers always ask, what is that one? So here's how that dialogue goes. This is where, and this is how I say it to them. I'm coaching them, right? This is where you ask me to go back to all buyer's agents and ask for their highest and best by tomorrow at X time. And we'll decide what's a good time that works for both you and I. But let's assume 5 p.m., right? And they go, okay. And then I go, I'm going to then call them and I'm going to use this script. And remember, I'm talking to the seller about these steps so they understand that it's a system. It is a scripted and laid out system. And I'm going to call them and I'm going to say the seller has asked that I go back to all buyers and ask for their highest and best by tomorrow at 5 p.m. And then I shut up. Why do I shut up? Well, they could react viscerally, right? They could overreact and say, oh, this is bullshit, blah, 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 right? If they do, I want to be prepared to talk them off the ledge, right? Because if they are so pissed that they get out of the running and we only have two offers, now we have none, now we only have one. And the other offer, if it has an escalator clause, there's no second offer to trigger it. So You don't want to lose anybody out of this competition because you don't know which offer is going to be the number two offer that triggers the escalator, right? So it's really important that you're careful and genuine and patient and encouraging when somebody is mad, right? If they get emotional, you want to talk them off the ledge and say, "Hey man, I get it, but listen, there's only X of you," right? You notice in the first phase I said the sellers asked me to go back to all buyers. I didn't tell him how many there were, and that was on purpose. I said all. But if he overreacts, I'm going to say, look, there's only two of you. I'll come clean on how many there are because it's going to be less scary probably, right? Human nature is we go to dark places in the absence of information. So if you say all buyers to me, I'm probably assuming there's like 10. And then you come clean and you say, look, there's only two of you. And if the other one tells me to kick rocks, all your client needs to do is change his expiration date and he wins. Does that make sense? And they go, yeah. Okay, let me talk to my client. So I've done this hundreds of times. Not once have I lost a buyer because of this pause up here. I've had people overreact, but I'm quiet, I listen, and then I respond. And this is the response, right? If they say, I figured it might, say, great, I'm going to send you an email with a breakdown of the terms besides price that your client might want to consider tightening up. And if they choose to adjust the price, excuse me, adjust the price, that's their choice, right? So let me say that without hiccups and indigestion, right? Great. I'm going to send you an email with a breakdown of all the terms besides price that your client may want to consider tightening up. And if they choose to adjust the price, that's their choice, right? And they'll say, well, like what? And you say, well, like if yours is not the biggest earnest money, I'll let you know. That doesn't mean you have to change it. I just want you to be aware, right? And they go, oh, that's great. And a lot of times they go, when are you going to send that? And I'm like, as soon as I finish making all these calls or these two calls, depending on whether they overreacted or didn't. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. So you explain that to your seller with the tone and delivery of this is a scripted system that we follow every time. Okay. That gives them confidence. They feel like, wow, thank God I connected with Rima. She knows her stuff and we're not going to leave any money on the table. Right. All right. We can go back to all interested parties and ask everyone for their highest and best. When should you do that? The minute you have a second offer, right? The first offer is the hardest offer to get. If they ask me directly how many offers I have, I will tell them, Allison. Like I even said 99 when I had that one deal. But I will only do that if they ask. I never lie. I'm not going to manipulate people, but I'll omit stuff if it benefits my client unless they ask.
I don't lie, but here's what triggers me. I had that happen on an REO like, a decade ago or so. And I answered honestly. And then as soon as she walked away, like 10 more offers came in. It was in my office. And
Yeah.
she wrote an offer based on the information that I gave her. And then, you know, when it closed, she lost her marbles and went to my manager, and he stuck up for me. He said she can't help it if other offers came in after you had a conversation, but I don't like answering that question because
Let me give you a different spin.
I,
Um, because if I'm making these calls and somebody is really focused on how many their offers there are, and then I get 10 more,
Mhm.
after I spoke with them, I'll call them back
Eesh.
because there's a very high likelihood that they're going to adjust their offer if they knew there were 10 or 12 offers now instead of two, right? And
Mhm.
that gets my client more money potentially.
Okay.
So I know you don't always have time. I know the timing of that Allison's scenario could absolutely still happen to me, but I am paying attention if that quantity number is important to somebody and it changes, I'll try and let them know. It could be as easy as a text, right? Because think of if you receive that text from me, what do you think of me?
I think you're an excellent agent.
Right. And it creates a bigger bond between us. Like it's only a text, but it is a bit of rapport building because you're like, oh man, that was really nice of him to let me know. And I've done that and I've gotten texts back that just say, oh shoot, we were already at our limit. I think we're screwed. And I'll still be encouraging. I'll say, hey, we're going out for highest and best. You don't know how many people are going to tell me to kick rocks.
Mm.
That's just the euphemism I use for, pound sand, kick rocks, whatever. They're going to tell me to go to hell. That's another term you could use. And you might be the only one remaining, so don't give up. Don't quit.
And also, I could qualify it at this very moment. I have that could.
Yeah. Yeah. You did that in the first conversation, right?
No, no. I was I was newer in RE.
Uh, yeah. I mean, most agents are smart enough to realize if the offer review cutoff is noon, let's say, and I call you at 9 a.m. and say, how many offers do you have? I oftentimes might say none yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like here's another bit of advice for buyers agents in this situation. I tell my team, do not submit your offer until an hour before the cutoff
Mm.
because you don't want the listing broker to use your offer to lever up someone else, right?
Yeah.
Because if they do that, you don't win if they levered up somebody else. And I get offers a day before the review date, and I just think to myself, you're an idiot. So there's a lot of dynamics here. And the point I'm making is if an agent calls me at 9 a.m., they should be smart enough to know that those next 3 hours, more can come in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, you brought this up last week, I think, Allison, which was what if it comes in after noon? Will I still handle it? And the answer is yeah. Yeah, because uh, it helps my client.
Well, I didn't ask if you would still handle it. I asked how you answered that question because it's so annoying. Yeah, of course
Yeah.
I'm going to present it. I'm going to present all offers until it closes. But like, well, I see the noon deadline. What if we do it at 3?
Yeah. Yeah. Then you will be doing it when it's already in escrow. Good
Yeah,
job. Right?
yeah. So I just say present. I mean, I have an obligation to present all offers. Oh, like that. I like that. You take your chances.
Yeah.
Chances, we're already countering. Or
If I have rapport with you and you're telling me you're going to be 3 hours late, I'm going to let you down gently, but that's too much time. If you're only going to be an hour late, I'll try and wait for you. But it really, at that point, I've already set an appointment with my seller of what time we're going to talk. So I'll be able to say, yeah, get it in an hour late. I won't have met with them yet. You're good to go. Right? Do I put that into the listing? No, no, no. Because the minute you say an hour late is acceptable, it's going to be 2 hours late is going to be the question. Yeah, your fiduciary duty is to your seller. Amen. All right. So when to use it? The minute you get a second offer. You want to use a firm deadline for the highest and best because the longer you push that out, like I don't say highest and best is due by next Tuesday. because buyers get cold feet. The more time they have to stew on it, the more likely they are to land on, oh man, I'm going to get my teeth kicked in. I don't even want to play this game anymore. So make it the next day at a particular time that works for you and your client. You also want to make these calls right after noon, is the example we're using, by like 1 o'clock, maybe 2 o'clock at the latest. They're all wondering, they're all assuming, make those phone calls, right? And don't lose anyone. Then send the follow-up emails, which I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. Oh, and always update the agent only remarks. So the minute my client says we want to go for highest and best, I go into the MLS and I add to the agent only remarks in all caps at the front of the agent only remarks so they can't miss it. It says multiple offers received, H and B due by tomorrow at 5 p.m. or whatever it is. And if they call me and say, what does H and B mean? I'm gonna giggle and tell them. But most people know, right? Here's what the email looks like.
H and B means
Hi.
hot and bothered, right?
What's that?
H and B means hot and bothered, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You can get that way out of this circumstance for sure. Now, I want you guys to notice that my email is written in a positive and encouraging and supportive way, right? First of all, thank you for your offer. It was well written, and we can tell your client really wants this home. As I mentioned over the phone, we're asking all buyers to submit their highest and best by blank date, right? I thought I would give you some feedback on parts of your offer that you may want to consider revising in order to make it stronger, as well as some quote housekeeping comments to tighten things up. Please don't take this as criticism or condescending. I just want you to know what things might make it stronger and could be the difference makers to my seller. Obviously, it's up to your client to decide if they want to make these changes in addition to any revisions to price that they decide to make. Do you see how that's carefully written to not offend, but encourage them to read on and consider each and every one of these things, right? So Form 21 is our purchase and sale agreement. So change the form numbers to be yours and your escrow company, obviously, right? Please consider waiving paragraph X. We have a clause in our purchase and sale that is called the information verification period. It's a 10-day window of time where the buyer has the right to terminate the deal if they see any material misinformation in the listing. I've never had a deal terminate under that clause, and I strike it with some pageantry because I want two things. I want them to know that we're not looking for a cheap out in my offers, and I want to educate them because there's a good chance they've never read paragraph X. So if you guys have something like that, consider striking it. It allows you on our cover email with our offers, we cite all the strengths. And this allows us to add one more strength. Paragraph X waived. We have nothing to hide, right? Uh, 22A, if they leave something blank, etc. Uh, have your client check the closing cost credit box in paragraph 4. Consider reducing this amount. So if they ask for 3%, that's a money grab. I tell my agents never ask for a percentage when you're asking for closing costs and don't ask for a round number. Don't ask for 10 grand, ask for $9,871 because it sounds more specific and it sounds like you probably got it from your loan officer, right? But if you just say 10 grand, I know it's a money grab, right? Uh, this is a specific detailed. Form 35 is the inspection contingency. It has a neighborhood review clause. Form 17, I didn't see this in your offer. So you're just going to do granular advice throughout the offer on various forms. None of this has to do with price, right? Pre-approval, your pre-approval letter is only approved at 220. Please include a revised one because they offered more than that. Again, can't thank you enough for your offer. You don't have to make any of these changes, but they would make your offer more attractive to my seller. Thank you, and you're welcome to call me with any questions. Does this email seem constructive? It does, right? And if you're the buyer's agent on the receiving end of this, isn't it a good thing to be able to tell your client, hey, we're in a multiple offer situation, but I've got a list of 8 things that we can do besides price to make your offer stronger. And they're going to be like, oh, yeah, like what? And you can rattle through it, right? Here's the multiple offer comparison sheet. I can send that to you guys. What are the key takeaways? Control the process. How are we doing on time? Oh, I've gone long again. Structured, organized approach prevents chaos, positions you as the expert your seller hired, reduce seller overwhelm. Your job is to simplify complexity, break it down, slow it down, and guide your seller to clarity. Present options clearly. The 4 option script gives every seller a clear framework, gives you a confident, repeatable system. Protect the seller. Legal compliance, ethical conduct, and thorough vetting of offers are non-negotiable responsibilities, and scripts create confidence. Anyone can present offers. Professionals create leverage, certainty, and results. You were hired for leadership. I'm going to wrap it up.
Can we
So,
wrap it up? Can we go through that one question? Is that possible?
yeah, your question in the chat?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let me go back to it. Love to know how you handle agents calling you asking questions regarding verbiage you put in the MLS when they haven't even taken the time to even look at the listing or look at the house.
The listing. So let me call you on your foreclosure. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Hey Ed, it's Allison Silverman. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you, Allison?
Great. So is that an REO? Is like, how do I show it? Are there offers on it? Like, what can you like? When is what's going on with it? What's the story on it?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. I would engage in that conversation. So what Allison is I tell me if you're drawing a connection to 2008.
Yeah, I am, and it triggers me.
Right. So get over it. We're not in 2008. Here's the reason I'm giggling for the rest of you. There was a long period of time where my voicemail greeting said, "Hi, you've reached Ed Laine with Miller Lane Properties," was my company name at the time. The MLS is up to date. You need not leave a message if all you're asking is it still available? That's what my voicemail greeting was. And I don't do that anymore because we're not in that kind of market. I don't have that many assets. There was a time where I had 205 listings in 73 cities all at the same time. So fielding calls where is it still available became such an annoyance, right? Well, now I've got 15 or 20, but not 200. So I would absolutely respond to Allison's message, even though I know that it's annoying. I would do it with a smile because people can tell when you're smiling through the phone, right?
Hmm.
And I would say, yeah, it's still available. Let's work together. Do you have a buyer for me? Oh, well, I haven't seen it yet. Get out there. You're going to love it. Here's what's great about it, right? It's got RV parking or it's got whatever, or it's a huge, I mean, it's underpriced deliberately. I had one that closed in the fall that was a flip candidate, and I coached the asset manager to make it $1 million payoff to whoever flipped it. So they could buy it for 2 million, put 1 million into it, but then it would sell for 4 million. Because I told the asset manager, I'm like, this is a big flip. It's a 9,000 square foot house. It's going to cost them $1 million. If you guys don't know, I used to be a GC. So when I tell asset managers what it's going to cost, I'm telling them from experience, right? So the asset manager did it. And when I got calls on it, I was excited for them. I'm like, bring me an offer. This is a home run deal if your client can handle the size of the flip, because that's not for everybody, right?
Hmm.
And you know what ended up happening? I double ended it with a GC directly.
Nice.
Yeah. So um I love talking to people, as you guys can probably tell. Uh And if you're calling on one of my listings, I'm going to do everything I can to get you to drag your client out there and hopefully they fall in love with it.
Okay, so you want me to be nicer.
I want you to be nicer, Allison.
Also, I just say, how can I help you via text?
Yeah. Think of it as you can be a vehicle or a medium to
Well,
get that sale.
here's what triggers me. So it's multiple offers, and it says that in the MLS. And they ask me, "Do you have offers?" And I don't have an offer deadline because the asset manager hasn't given me an offer deadline, so I can't answer that question. And this is so when I'm a buyer's agent on your listing, I'm going to get into rapport with you and I'm going to make you know that I'm going to be the easiest, smoothest escrow and you're going to be able to focus on other stuff and you're not going to have to do my work for me. And, I'm just a pure delight as far as you're concerned. So, because you're my client at this point. And so they haven't even taken the time to read the MLS.
I know. It's it's annoying when you put so much effort into getting your listing where all that information is in there.
Mhm.
But think of it like this.
Okay, thank you for reframing.
Yeah, it to me, it's analogous to how I talk to my retail sellers about the different forms of media that we're going to have in their listing. And it sounds like this. I go, hey, you know what, Allison? Different buyers like different forms of media. Some of them like still photos, some of them like video, some of them like drone, some of them like 360-degree tours. The key is we want to provide all of them because we don't know which one's going to appeal to that particular buyer. This is kind of the same, right? Agents, some agents are, S and C personalities if you follow disc profiling and they read everything. Others are D personalities. They don't read anything. They just call. And I don't know who's got the buyer for my listing, so I got to be encouraging to all of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I don't want to feel like I'm their secretary when they could have read it themselves. I think that's their responsibility.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a huge burden though if you know it off the top of your head. And if you don't know it off the top of your head, then you draw them back to the listing. And you say, you know what? I think it's X, but I know there's a supplement in the listing that speaks to that specifically. If you have time, go back to that or send me an email. I'll send it to you.
Hmm. Okay.
Because in my hard drive, I have every address has a folder, and every address folder has a subfolder called subs. So it's easy enough for me to grab the prelim or the legal or the whatever and shoot it out to somebody.
Okay.
I look at it a little bit differently. My job is to sell the house. So if a buyer's agent needs some information, I'm going to give it to them because you never know. They may have the buyer for the home and you don't want to, because it's a pain in the neck to respond to them. And yes, they should have been more thorough. And yes, they should have done more on their part. It's still your responsibility to sell the home because you listed it. So that's how I look at it. And if it just takes me 5 minutes to send them the information, send them the dang information.
Yeah,
That could be
same.
your buyer. You never know. And will it be a pain in the neck along the way? Maybe, but it's also how you look at it. Um, and okay, this agent needs a little bit more help. And as long as you wrap your head around that concept, then you get into that helpful mode. But your goal is to do the best you can for your seller, and that is to provide what is needed in order to get the buyer and then to get it to closing.
Mhm.
And they become a recruiting candidate because nobody trained them.
That's the reframe I need. Okay.
There's so many good nuggets that can come from it. You
Yeah,
just got to look for the goodness in it instead of focusing on this is a pain in my neck because I've provided you all of this already. Look at it more like, okay, this person needs more help. How can I help them?
exactly.
Because I want to get this house sold for my seller.
And you can tie it back to your fiduciary duty to your seller, right? I mean, that's exactly what Debbie was just preaching is I owe it to my seller to do everything I can with this particular agent who happens to be either lazy or inexperienced or just naive, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'll fill in the gaps and hopefully we get a chance to work together.
Okay.
And then I'll invite you to my mastermind.
Okay,
Uh,
got
we always end, I know we're almost an hour into this, but I never want to shortchange the last thing I always touch on is there a scenario where you would like some scripting help? And if there's not, we can kind of end with that. All right. Well, Lanny, sorry, I always Lonnie Fisher and Lanny Belcher. I always mess that up. Nice to see your face, Lanny. Carlene, thanks for joining us. Allison and Debbie, always nice to see you ladies. And we will see you next Friday. Take care.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.